The taxpayers were the real losers of the Super Bowl, as they are every year. This year was particularly egregious, though. What's in the news with stories on government indoctrination center strip search, civilians killed by the U.S. again, cannabis news, a new arms race, death for a pot cookie, and death for defending a home. And an NCAP app segment on a new way to be charitable using cryptocurrency with Give Crypto. This episode is brought to you by Zencash, now known as Horizon, a cryptocurrency that infuses privacy, anonymity, and security done right. Also brought to you by SmartCash, an easy-to-use, fast, and secure cryptocurrency that supports everyday use for everyday transactions.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the state that has the 5th highest metro area for economic freedom in Manchester, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at TheLavaFlowPod. This is episode 119, Taxpayers Superbowl-ed Over. And it's Tuesday, February 5th, 2018, when there have already been more than 56 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at more than $21,975,500,000,000 in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. Arthur Blank, owner of the Atlanta Falcons, with his net worth of $4.6 billion, which he earned legitimately as co-founder of the Home Depot, got a super sweet deal for his new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, site of the 53rd Super Bowl this past weekend. The $1.6 billion stadium has already cost taxpayers $200 million, but that is just the beginning. Thanks to a sweet deal that Arthur Blank got from the city of Atlanta, Blank would get to convert this initial subsidy into a gift that keeps on giving. Any hotel tax money collected after the first $200 million would be put into a waterfall fund that the team could then use for future maintenance, operation, and improvement of the new stadium. Since those would normally be team costs, this meant Blank would get to stick taxpayers with the bills for future upgrades to his new playpen. Blank eventually acknowledged the present value of all this future money would be close to $700 million. Add in a handful of other goodies, $30 million in sales tax rebates on construction materials, $24 million in city-provided land, a pedestrian bridge that was supposed to cost $12 million but ended up coming in at almost twice that amount. And the final public tab could end up clearing $750 million. But, you might ask, this is good for the city and taxpayers, right? It's essentially an economic stimulus plan that will reap huge rewards for taxpayers, won't it? Certainly not. Numerous studies demonstrate that promises of economic development around stadiums rarely materialize. Tax revenues don't rise despite huge public investments, and per capita income is actually damaged by the presence of a stadium. At best, dining and entertainment dollars are relocated from elsewhere in the city, hurting those businesses. But how did Blank get such a sweet deal? He got it by essentially threatening the city of Atlanta with threats of moving the franchise to Atlanta's suburbs or even to Los Angeles. So the mayor of Atlanta did everything he could to keep them there, even stealing money from his peasants. But surely the taxpayers will be getting portions of the concession stand revenue or some of the $500 per seat ticket costs to help pay them back, right? Nope, of course not. 100% of the profits will go directly to Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, despite the stadium's nominal classification as a city venue. Only by using the force of government can the rich get richer on the backs of the poor using involuntary means. Blank used voluntary means to get his first $4.6 billion. I guess he got tired of working for his money, so now he's going to use the threat of force by the government that is in his pockets to get his next billions. A minute ago, I mentioned a $12 million pedestrian bridge that ended up costing twice that, all at taxpayer expense. So here's the story on that. In anticipation of hosting this year's Super Bowl at the brand-new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the city of Atlanta spent more than $23 million to build a pedestrian bridge linking the stadium to the nearby Vine City public transit system. allowing fans to cross a busy street without needing a crosswalk. The bridge was originally supposed to cost about $13 million, already pretty pricey for a simple pedestrian crossing over a 4-lane road. But city officials approved an extra $10 million in funding last year, specifically to ensure the project would be finished in time for the big game. The Serpentine Bridge, decked out with dazzling, customizable LED lights and wrapped with diamond-shaped aluminum panels, did indeed get finished in time for the Super Bowl with that extra $10 million. But it couldn't be used by the vast majority of the expected 80,000 people heading to the game on Sunday. Because of its location adjacent to the stadium, the bridge has been deemed a security risk and will be closed to everyone except credentialed staff and media. I mean, look, even by Atlanta standards, paying $23 million to build a bridge that no one can use is a pretty incredible screw-up. This is, after all, the same city that spent $98 million building a streetcar line that literally was useless for anyone except tourists. It runs in a 2.7-mile loop downtown around the Coca-Cola Museum, Centennial Olympic Park, and the new football stadium. Then they closed that streetcar when some 100,000 tourists descended on the city for last year's college football national championship game. Way to go, Atlanta. The extra spending is particularly galling because it was approved less than a year before the Super Bowl was headed to Atlanta. Surely someone could have checked with the NFL or the FBI, which handles security issues for the Super Bowl, about the extent of the planned security perimeter for the big game. Those things are carefully planned, certainly more carefully planned than this pedestrian bridge appears to have been. But sadly, this is not just happening in Atlanta. Similar things happen in every major city in this country, although not always at this scale. Not much has changed since the days that the peasants existed only to provide taxes and slaves for the lords of the region. We still live by those supposed values, but we call it democracy, since we elect the lords these days. Aren't we civilized, participating in our own theft and enslavement? The Roman satirical poet Juvenal once said, "Give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt." Cicero said, "The evil was not in bread and circuses per se, but in the willingness of the people to sell their rights as free men for full bellies and the excitement of the games, which would serve to distract them from the other human hungers which bread and circuses can never appease." Men have been talking about this situation for 2,000 years, and yet we still fall for it every time. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
It's time to shake up your podcast feed, folks, by subscribing to Lions of Liberty, the only libertarian variety show out there. Spend Mondays with me, Mark Claire, as I feature in-depth interviews with great names in the libertarian community and fun roundtable discussions.
Electric Liberty Land with me, Brian McWilliams, every Wednesday, your weekly dose of comedy, culture, and liberty.
And Felony Fridays with me, John Odermatt, where I expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and at lionsofliberty.com.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In Government Indoctrination Center's news, a middle school in Binghamton, New York, allegedly strip-searched 4 young girls suspected of drug possession. On January 15th, the students made administrators suspicious by, quote, appearing hyper and giddy during the lunch hour, according to a letter written by Principal Tim Simmons. Wait, 4 middle school teenage girls were hyper and giddy? Because that never happens. Must be drugs. The children were instructed to remove their clothing and felt shamed, humiliated, and traumatized by the experience, read a statement from PLOT, the social justice organization Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow. A graphic published on PLOT's Facebook page shows that 3 of the 4 students were made to remove shirts, pants, or leggings. while administrators searched their bras and underwear, and a fourth received an in-house suspension for refusing to disrobe. In a statement published by Binghamton Press and Sun Bulletin, the district apologized for making the girls feel traumatized. The declaration from the school district said, "Last week, a concern regarding our procedures and application of student searches was brought to the school's attention. The concern was immediately investigated. Unfortunately, our students shared that these actions have had the unintended consequences of making the students feel traumatized. We sincerely apologize for the impact this has had and are working with the families to support their children's success. Students are protected by the Constitution from unreasonable searches and seizures. A student may, under current law and policy, be searched in a school building by an administrator when the administrator reasonably suspects that a student's health is in danger or is in a possession of a substance that may harm themselves or others. These searches involve an administrator requesting a student to empty their pockets, remove their shoes, and/or remove their jackets." Remove shoes and jackets, right. When the presumption of innocence goes out the window because a few teenage girls acted giddy, you know things have gone to shit in our schools. Maybe the school administrators that allowed this should be fucked in the neck with some drugs to chill them the fuck out. Get your kids out of government indoctrination centers. In collateral damage news, a disastrous pair of airstrikes, one by the U.S. and one by the Afghan Air Force, have killed at least 29 civilians in Helmand Province. Almost all of the slain from both strikes were members of the same extended family. Amid a multi-day offensive in the contested Sangan district, the ground troops called in air support. Among these strikes, the Afghan Air Force inexplicably attacked a civilian house, killing 16 members of the same family. That would have been bad enough, but the major funeral organized for the 16 people killed by surviving members of their extended family was also attacked. What the actual fuck? According to the provincial government, the U.S. attacked as male family members were in the process of burying the dead, killing 13 more people, bringing the civilian toll in this family to 29. While bombing random funerals isn't exactly unheard of for the U.S. forces in Afghanistan, it's also not something they're particularly proud of. That's likely why the U.S. military spokesman is claiming it didn't happen, saying it must have been Taliban propaganda. There's no sign the Taliban even addressed this issue, however, with reports of the civilian slain coming from provincial officials, including members of the Helmand Parliament. Leave it to the U.S. to take a disastrous bombing and make it so much worse. It would be one thing if this were the first accidental bombing of a funeral by the U.S. and its allies, but this is not the first, or even the second. Zencash has changed their name to Horizon to better represent their transition from a pure cryptocurrency to a pioneering platform that protects consumer data. They're focusing more on the wider vision of what Zencash was all about. The new name, Horizon, reinforces that the project is forward-thinking and visionary and will broaden the horizons of what the community can accomplish in the world using the platform. Not only is it one of the best privacy-oriented cryptocurrencies with zero-knowledge technology built into it, but they also have private chat over their network. And soon, Horizon will include the ability to publish information and go anywhere on the web, all with complete privacy. They are working toward the day when anyone will be able to build privacy-based applications on the Horizon platform and generate income from them. This will allow Horizon to bring thousands of real-life services to the community. Services that provide freedom, utility, and privacy. The unique spelling of Horizon is a nod to their heritage and recognizes that they remain committed to the vision that their project was built upon. Their coin and ticker symbol remains Zen. So Zencash is now Horizon, and Horizon is bringing privacy to life. You can learn more at horizon.global. That's HORIZEN.global. In cannabis news, a growing number of big city prosecutors are saying no to marijuana convictions. Baltimore's top prosecutor announced on Tuesday that she would no longer bother with marijuana cases, a controversial move that she argued would improve police-community relations and allow law enforcement to devote more time to serious violent crime. Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney for Baltimore, said, "If you ask that mom whose son was killed where she would rather us spend our time and our attention on solving that murder or prosecuting marijuana laws, it's a no-brainer." She vowed at a news conference to no longer prosecute marijuana possession, regardless of quantity or prior criminal record, and said she would seek to vacate almost 5,000 convictions. Baltimore has both the highest murder rate among the nation's big cities and one of the most broken relationships between its police and its citizenry. Only 1 out of 4 homicides were solved last year, and the city's enforcement of marijuana laws has fallen almost exclusively on African Americans. Ms. Mosby's move places her in a vanguard of big city prosecutors, including Kim Fox in Chicago, Larry Krasner in Philadelphia, Cyrus R. Vance Jr. in Manhattan, and Eric Gonzalez in Brooklyn, who are moving away from marijuana cases, declaring them largely off-limits, and in some cases going so far as to clear old warrants or convictions off the books completely. Much of their reasoning sounds familiar from the many statewide campaigns that have resulted in outright legalization. Marijuana, they say, is not linked to violent crime. Enforcing its prohibition is a waste of resources, and has left thousands of people with criminal convictions that hinder their search for jobs and housing. But increasingly, another argument is creeping in. Letting marijuana cases go actually makes communities safer by shifting the focus to stopping violence and untangling a legacy of racial discrimination, allowing the seeds of trust to germinate in neighborhoods where a chief complaint of police officers is that no one will help them solve crimes. I mean, what a no-brainer. It's good to see bureaucrats finally catching up with the reality of the war on drugs, and even better, doing something about it. In arms race news, the U.S. has begun making a new low-yield nuclear warhead for its Trident missiles that arms control advocates warn could lower the threshold for a nuclear conflict. The National Nuclear Security Administration, NNSA, announced in an email that it had started manufacturing the weapons at its Pantex nuclear weapons plant in Texas, as ordered by Donald Trump's nuclear posture review last year. The NNSA said the first of the new warheads had come off the production line and that it was on schedule to deliver the first batch, an unspecified number referred to as initial operational capability, before the end of September. To make matters worse, there's been a spate of developments signaling that a new arms race is gathering pace. Vladimir Putin has unveiled a new generation of Russian weapons, and Russia's suspected development of a cruise missile banned under the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Trump has declared that he will take the U.S. out of that treaty, and the administration suspended compliance and served 6 months' notice of withdrawal this past Saturday. So now, we are in another nuclear arms race, thanks to government, thanks to statists, thanks to our rulers. I can guarantee you one thing. The vast majority of Americans, Russians, and hell, people in the world do not want a new nuclear arms race. But our rulers don't give a flying fuck what we want. They care about power, nothing else. And anything that threatens that power, whether it be you and me, or a country on the other side of the planet, will be a target for them. Fuck our rulers in the neck with nuclear missiles. Smart Cash is an easy-to-use, fast, and secure cryptocurrency that supports everyday use for everyday transactions. Smart Cash is focused on getting the currency back into cryptocurrency, and their vision is to replace centralized fiat currencies in day-to-day life. Too many cryptos talk about being used as a currency, but they are all focused on something else and leave user experience for both merchant and customer by the wayside. Smart Cash is focused on being used for business payments and POS through such features like their Instant Pay, which allows for trusted transactions in a second, powered and secured by their 20,000 user-run smart nodes. Smart Cash also has a Smart Hive proposal system that is funded by the blockchain, where any user can put forth a project proposal to expand the community, ecosystem, or technology. Holding one smart equals one vote, so all users can participate in voting without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to run a full node. The people working on Smart Cash are broken up into 6 different Smart Hive structuring teams with dedicated team members that are completely funded by the blockchain. There is no CEO, no foundation, no centralized leadership, and there is no need for outside investors to come in and compromise any deals. Check out Smart Cash today at thelavaflow.com/smart to find out how they are putting the cash into Smart Cash and the currency into cryptocurrency. I believe this is truly a ground floor opportunity to get in on a rising tide. Get a wallet and find an exchange to purchase Smart Cash at thelavaflow.com/smart. In Death for Cannabis news, a man died in police custody after being arrested for sharing a pot cookie with his girlfriend on Valentine's Day in 2017. Now, his family has filed a lawsuit accusing Gwinnett County Jail staff of using unnecessary and excessive force on a 23-year-old man who it turns out was suffering a massive seizure. Instead of calling 911, deputies restrained a clearly suffering Chris Howard and eventually left him in a cell by himself. He later suffered a cardiac arrest and died. The lawsuit claims the jail's medical staff and the rapid response team made crucial mistakes that likely led to his slow and painful death. The jail surveillance video seems to show Chris suffering from multiple seizures, but the lawsuit claims it was one seizure that actually lasted at least 12 minutes. Instead of calling 911, the video shows the jail's rapid response team holding down Howard, eventually handcuffing and putting him into a restraint chair. According to the internal affairs file, nurses told deputies to take Howard directly to the jail clinic. Instead, the rapid response team decided to put him in an observation cell, where he was only occasionally observed during an agonizing stay lasting more than half an hour. Eventually, a nurse discovered Howard and insisted again that he be moved to the medical unit. On the way there, Howard would go into cardiac arrest. When he finally did reach the hospital, Chris Howard would be pronounced dead. Howard's girlfriend, Laurel Kate Anderson, said, "Why would someone watch him begging for his life, crawling up the door, crawling up the side of the cell? How could someone watch that happen and not feel like I want to help them?" Look, folks, this was nothing more than a death sentence for eating a pot cookie. An agonizing, slow, painful death, essentially torture, for eating a pot cookie. That, folks, is the state of the drug war in America. In more drug war news, 4 cops were shot and a middle-aged couple was left dead in their home over a no-knock warrant for a non-violent crime. Last Monday evening in Houston, a dozen armed men broke into the home of Dennis Tuttle and Regina Nicholas, a middle-aged couple who had lived at the house on Harding Street for at least 2 decades. The first man through the door, who was armed with a shotgun, used it to kill one of the couple's dogs. Tuttle responded to the home invasion by grabbing his revolver and shooting the man with the shotgun, who collapsed on a sofa in the living room. And frankly, folks, I would have done the same goddamn thing. As Nicholas tried to disarm the intruder, his accomplices shot her. Tuttle returned fire, and by the end of the shootout, he and his wife were both dead. 4 of the assailants, the cops, were hit by gunfire, while a 5th injured his knee, poor little baby. According to Police Chief Art Avocito, the investigation that led to the raid began because a neighbor had the courage to say, "We're not going to put up with this. We think that they're dealing dope out of the house." That tip was then passed on to the Narcotics Division, which was able to actually determine, quote, that street-level narcotics dealing of black tar heroin was happening at the house. Acevedo said police actually bought black tar heroin at that location, although he says they didn't find any during their raid on Monday. Imagine that. Instead, the search discovered an unspecified amount of marijuana, along with a white powder that police thought might be cocaine, or maybe fentanyl. They have no fucking clue. KHOU reports that Tuttle apparently had no criminal record, while the only mark against Nicholas was a misdemeanor theft by check charge involving $145. Basically, she bounced a check. After she paid restitution, the charge was dismissed. One neighbor told KHOU they never had company, while another said there was never traffic at that house. Never. Neighbors interviewed by the station said they never noticed suspicious activity at that home. Acevedo used the deadly drug raid as a pretext to push gun control, of course, saying politicians should enact policies to curtail the proliferation of firearms in the hands of people that have no business having guns. The only specific example he mentioned was requiring background checks for anyone who buys a firearm at a gun show, whether or not the seller is a federally licensed dealer. But if the local press reports are correct, neither Tuttle nor Nicholas had a criminal record that would have disqualified them from owning the guns that they had. Look, Tuttle did not go looking for cops to shoot. He was responding to a violent attack by thugs that he may not have even recognized as police officers, men who knocked his door in, repeatedly fired a shotgun, killed his dog, and fatally shot his wife. If police officers don't want to be portrayed as the enemy, then maybe they should stop acting like the fucking enemy. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
ANCAP apps.
Let's say, hypothetically, that you had $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and you intended to give it away as a charity. How would you do this? Where do you send the money? Now, believe it or not, this is trickier than it sounds. I mean, your average homeless person is not walking around with a Ledger Nano wallet. Refugees are not hodlers. The needier the recipient, perhaps the slimmer the odds that they're crypto savvy. For Joe Waltman, though, a San Francisco-based startup entrepreneur, this question was not theoretical. He was given $1,000 in crypto, along with a challenge. Give this to people in need, and do it as efficiently as possible. So, Waltman conducted a few experiments. In one, he posted in a Venezuelan subreddit and said he would give $10 in Bitcoin to anyone who could prove that they're Venezuelan, explain why they needed the money, and what they would do with it, like buy food or clothes, and then take a photo of what they bought. This struck people as confusing and weird. He admits, we shut that down pretty quickly. Next idea, he tried to give it to Venezuelan restaurants who were already accepting crypto. He said, I basically told them, I'm some dumb American. I want to send you $100, but I want you to turn it into as much food as you can. This time, he had much better luck. Waltman cold called one restaurant on a Thursday, zapped them crypto on a Friday, and by Saturday, 300 people got a meal for that $100. Then there's the Venezuelan brewery. It turns out that in addition to beer, a brewery creates byproducts like hops, grains, and barley. Much of this stuff is nutritious, and each day it's tossed into the garbage. The brewery told Waltman that if he gave them $100 in crypto, they could transform these leftovers into 10,000 snack bars. 10,000! And give them to hungry kids at a local school. This was a no-brainer, said Waltman. The bang for the buck was incredible. These kids are probably going to bed hungry. For $100, you can feed around 600 kids for a month. I told them that we'll give you $100 for the rest of your existence. The $1,000 crypto experiment was something of a proof of concept for Give Crypto at givecrypto.org, the charity launched by Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase. It was also, in a sense, a job interview. Armstrong had raised $4 million in donations, and he wanted to treat the organization like a startup. So he hired a tech guy, Waltman, to figure out how to spend the money. Waltman was new to this space. He says, I didn't have a lot of experience dealing with people in terrible situations. I'm still learning how to maintain a safe emotional distance. At the end of the $1,000 experiment, Waltman says he was so moved by the stories, like kids rummaging through trash cans, that he cried in Armstrong's office. As Waltman remembers it, the Coinbase CEO told him, Hey, I don't normally deal with people crying in work meetings, so this is a new thing for me too. Since then, Give Crypto has conducted gobs of experiments in crypto charity, often in Venezuela, which Waltman meticulously chronicles each month with a mix of candor and humility. Give Crypto is a charity that gives cryptocurrency to people in need, he writes, noting that, I have no charity or crypto experience. A sample post from October shows a spreadsheet of locations: Uganda, Lebanon, Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, amount dispersed, $13,926, and the number of people impacted, 854. Give Crypto is a nonprofit that distributes cryptocurrency to people living in poverty. They distribute your cryptocurrency to impact communities and help drive the real-world utility of crypto. Right now, 100% of donated funds go to recipients, so the bang for your crypto buck is tremendous right now. And Give Crypto is crazy easy to use. You go to their site at givecrypto.org, click the green Donate Crypto button, give your crypto, and they do the rest. They distribute the money directly to those in need. Your donation is completely tax-deductible, and they accept Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, and Zcash. If you have crypto burning a hole in your pocket that you really want something to do with, I highly encourage you to give some to Give Crypto at givecrypto.org. I gave $100 myself in Ethereum to this very important charity, and I challenge every one of my listeners to give as well. Every dollar counts. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite Liberty Forum partner, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes of this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/119. I don't have any new supporters this week, but thanks to all of my awesome supporters, I'm at $252.5 per episode, or 50.5% of the way towards my next goal of $500 per episode. Thank you for all of your support, guys, really. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'll be upping the content I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you, so add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per-episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon, or monthly using Subscribestar, or using cryptocurrencies through Bitbacker. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. I also don't have any new Apple Podcast reviews this week, but if you have a minute and you want to hear your review read right here on the show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who has left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.